Dr. Elias Vorn's eyes opened slowly. The world around him was dark, silent, and cold. For a moment he could not remember who he was or where he was. Then, pieces of memory began to return. He remembered the mission, the warning, the cryogenic chamber, and the promise humanity had made to itself: survival no matter the cost. Elias lay in the stasis pod, feeling the weight of 15,000 years press upon him. Time had moved on without him. The soft hum of machinery was the only sound he could hear. The pod's walls glowed faintly with blue light, and a panel above him flickered. Slowly the chamber's systems came online, and a familiar voice, calm and precise, spoke. "Dr. Vorn, welcome back. You have been in stasis for 15,000 Earth years," the AI, Orion, said. Its voice echoed slightly in the empty chamber. "Cryogenic systems stable. Vital signs normal. Protocol 15 Alpha ready for initiation." Elias tried to sit up, his body stiff and weak. Muscles that had not moved in millennia resisted his every effort. He touched his face and arms, marveling at the sensation. He felt real. He was alive. Alive and alone. "Orion," he croaked, his voice rough. How long have humans survived after I went into stasis?" A pause. Then, "Humanity has vanished. Last recorded transmissions indicate collapse of major civilizations nearly 15,000 years ago. Automated systems remained operational to preserve life seeds and knowledge." Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. Humanity vanished. Every memory of friends, family, cities, and culture, they were gone. The only thing that remained was him, a lone witness to a world that no longer had humans in it. He struggled out of the pod, feeling the stiffness in every joint. His steps were slow, but determination drove him forward. He moved to the observation deck of Aegis 9, the massive orbital station that had been humanity's last hope. Outside the viewport, Earth hung like a jewel. But it was different. Forests stretched over continents, cities lay in ruins, and strange lights flickered in patterns that he did not recognize. Elias's heart pounded. He had expected decay, emptiness, maybe even death, but the world below seemed alive. Nature had returned with force. Rivers glimmered, mountains stood tall, and clouds drifted over landscapes that had long forgotten human footsteps. "Orion," Elias said, his voice trembling. "Is this Earth?" "Yes, Dr. Vorn," Orion replied. "Planet is habitable, biospheres intact, human presence is currently 0, environmental conditions stable. Protocol Return Alpha requires assessment and activation of preserved human seeds." Elias felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. He was alone in a world where his species had disappeared, but there was a chance to restore what had been lost. He made his way to the central archive, the heart of the station's data systems. Holographic screens floated around him, filled with centuries of human knowledge. History, art, technology, languages, everything preserved with care. Elias ran his fingers through the holographic projections, remembering what humans had achieved. Their curiosity, creativity, and determination had been unmatched. And now, all of it waited for him, silent, patient, like a treasure buried in time. Orion guided him through the archive, highlighting key areas. "Dr. Vorn, your mission is critical. Human genetic material, embryos, and AI-guided preservation systems remain active. Activation sequence requires intelligent intervention." Elias studied the plans. Biospheres, hidden on Earth, contained the last hope of humanity. Dormant embryos, kept safe from cosmic disasters, could be awakened. The question was simple. Could he do it? Could one human restart a species? A sudden alarm interrupted his thoughts. Red lights blinked and Orion's voice changed slightly, sounding more urgent. "External anomaly detected. Unknown objects approaching planetary orbit. Assessment recommended before proceeding." Elias frowned. Strange signals, unidentified objects in orbit. The universe had not waited idly for humanity's return. It reminded him that survival would not be easy. Even if he succeeded, there would be challenges. He descended to the shuttle bay, where a sleek interstellar craft awaited him. Its metal hull gleamed under the soft lights of Aegis 9. This shuttle would carry him to Earth, to the first biosphere, to the future of humanity. As he prepared for launch, Elias remembered the faces of those who had trusted him to carry this mission. Scientists, engineers, leaders, they had all known the risk. They had all hoped that one human, awake in the far future, could make a difference. The engines ignited and the shuttle lifted off, gliding toward the blue-green planet below. Elias watched the Earth grow larger in the viewport, forests and oceans spreading like a living tapestry. He felt both awe and fear. He was entering a world that had grown without humans, a world that might not recognize him. During the descent, strange phenomena appeared. Aurora-like glows shimmered across the sky. Magnetic storms twisted in spirals, and faint structures, perhaps satellites or remnants of old stations, floated above the planet. Elias held his breath. Every moment was a test, every decision a choice that could determine the fate of his species. Finally, he touched down in a clearing near the edge of a vast forest. The shuttle's landing pad sank slightly into the soft earth. Silence returned, broken only by the distant calls of birds or creatures that seemed to echo human sounds from memory. Elias stepped out, feeling the soil beneath his boots. He took a deep breath. The air was pure, crisp, alive. He activated his portable scanner. Signals from the underground biosphere appeared faintly on the device. Somewhere beneath the surface, humanity's last hope lay sleeping. Embryos, carefully preserved for millennia, awaited a chance to awaken. Elias felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. One wrong move and the future could be lost. One careful step and humanity could rise again. As he began the trek toward the hidden entrance, he paused and looked around. Trees stretched into the sky, rivers wound like silver ribbons, and mountains loomed in the distance. The earth was magnificent, but it was not human. Not yet. Elias whispered to himself, almost as a prayer, "I will not fail. I will bring you back." Orion's voice came from his communicator. Proceeding with return protocol. Estimated activation of first biosphere in 3 hours. Environmental conditions optimal. Security systems ready. Elias nodded, his heart steadying. The journey ahead would be long and dangerous. Unknown entities, environmental hazards, and ancient automated systems would challenge him. But he felt something else too, a spark that had defined humanity for millennia: courage, curiosity, and hope. He continued toward the forest, every step a statement. He was alive. He was human. And humanity, though gone, had left behind a future he could restore. The first rays of sunlight broke through the trees, casting golden patterns on the ground. Elias allowed himself a small smile. For the first time in 15,000 years, he felt connected to something larger than himself. A mission, a species, a purpose. The forest whispered around him, and for the first time, he imagined what it would mean when humans walked this earth again. He could see it. Children laughing, cities thriving, ideas flowing, and the spirit of humanity alive once more. But first, he had to reach the biosphere. First, he had to awaken the seeds of life. First, he had to prove that one human, alone in a silent world, could make a difference. With resolve, Elias moved forward, leaving footprints in the untouched soil of a waiting planet. Humanity's future rested on his shoulders, and for the first time in millennia, the world seemed to be listening. Dr. Elias Vorn moved carefully through the dense forest. The morning sunlight filtered through the tall trees, casting dancing patterns on the ground. The air smelled fresh, filled with the scent of damp earth and blooming plants. For a moment he paused, listening. There was no sound of human life, only birds, insects, and the rustling of leaves. He checked his portable scanner. A faint signal pulsed beneath the forest floor. It was weak but consistent, the hidden biosphere where humanity's last hope slept. Elias's heart quickened. Every step he took now was heavier than the last. The fate of billions of future lives rested on his decisions. "Orion," he said into his communicator. "The signal is faint. Are there any obstacles I should know about?" "Dr. Vorn," Orion replied calmly. "The biosphere is protected by automated systems designed to prevent unauthorized access. Environmental conditions have changed over 15,000 years. Caution is advised." Elias nodded even though Orion could not see him. Automated defenses were meant to keep humans safe, but they also tested their intelligence and judgment. If he failed, the future of humanity would be delayed or lost entirely. He pressed forward, stepping over tangled roots and thick undergrowth. The forest seemed alive in more ways than one. Strange vines glowed faintly, reacting to his presence. Birds of unusual size and color watched silently from the trees. Every detail reminded him that this Earth had continued without humans, evolving in ways humanity could not have imagined. As he approached a small river, his scanner beeped urgently. Something moved beneath the water. Elias froze. A creature emerged, a large amphibious being with shimmering scales. It studied him, tilting its head as if trying to understand his presence. Elias held his breath, remembering that aggression could provoke the unknown. Slowly, he stepped back, and the creature slipped into the water, disappearing without a trace. "Orion," he whispered. "Life has changed here." Dramatically. "Yes," Orion responded. "Human influence is absent. Planetary ecosystems have adapted. Non-human intelligence may exist." Elias felt a chill. He had expected isolation but not unpredictability on this scale. Yet he pressed on. The biosphere was close. The signal was stronger now, pulsing steadily beneath his feet. After several hours, he reached a clearing. In the center, the ground sloped downward, revealing a circular stone structure partially covered in moss and vines. The scanner indicated that the biosphere entrance was beneath it. Elias studied the structure. It looked ancient, yet its design was clearly artificial, precise and unmistakably human. Whoever had built it had planned for centuries, maybe even millennia. He approached cautiously. The stone surface was smooth, engraved with symbols and markings that glowed faintly as he touched them. Orion spoke. "Dr. Vorn, the access system requires cognitive verification. Your knowledge, problem-solving, and intent must be proven to proceed." Elias took a deep breath. He had studied these systems in the archive, but seeing them now, active and waiting, made his hands shake slightly. He focused, recalling humanity's greatest achievements in logic, science, and creativity. He solved the sequence of patterns, aligned the symbols correctly, and pressed the final glyph. The ground trembled slightly. Panels slid aside, revealing a spiral staircase leading deep underground. Soft lights illuminated the path. Elias descended carefully, feeling a mix of awe and tension. The air grew cooler as he went deeper, and the faint hum of machinery grew louder. Finally, he reached a massive chamber. The walls glowed with soft, bioluminescent light. Rows of cryogenic chambers stretched as far as he could see, each one containing the last preserved embryos of humanity. The sight stole his breath. So many possibilities, so many futures. Each small life represented hope, curiosity, and resilience, the very essence of humanity. Elias activated the interface on one of the chambers. Data flowed across the screen: genetic profiles, developmental stages, environmental needs, and survival parameters. Orion guided him through the process. "Dr. Vorn, activation must follow precise protocols. Any deviation may compromise viability." He nodded, absorbing every instruction. The task was delicate. Mistakes could end hope forever. Carefully, he initiated the first sequence. Warmth spread through the chamber as life support systems powered up. Small lights blinked on each embryo pod. He watched anxiously. Minutes passed like hours. Then the faintest sign appeared, movement inside the first chamber. A tiny hand curled, a small pulse of life. Elias's eyes filled with tears. Humanity was waking. "Orion," he said, voice shaking. We did it. They're alive." "Yes, Dr. Vorn," Orion confirmed. "Activation successful. Continued monitoring required. Additional chambers may be activated sequentially." Elias felt a surge of pride and responsibility. These were not just embryos. They were the future of an entire species. Each decision he made now could shape civilizations yet to come. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the chamber. Red lights flashed and a loud hum reverberated from the walls. Elias froze. "Orion, what is happening?" "Unauthorized approach detected," Orion replied. "Automated defense systems engaging. Potential threat to biosphere integrity." Elias's heart raced. Automated defenses were not designed to attack humans, but systems could misinterpret actions. He had to act fast. He accessed the emergency override using logic and quick thinking to signal his intent. Slowly, the alarm ceased. The lights returned to normal and the system recognized him as authorized. Elias exhaled. The moment reminded him that even human ingenuity was tested in a world that had moved on without humans. Adaptability, reasoning, and calm decision-making were essential for survival, just as they had always been. He returned to the chambers. The embryos were stable, their vitals strong. Yet Elias knew this was only the beginning. To ensure long-term survival, he would need to transport them, protect them, and eventually nurture them as humans had done for millennia. "Orion," he said, scanning the chamber. "How many more chambers are there?" "Approximately 120, Orion replied. "Sequential activation recommended to avoid resource depletion. Environmental conditions are stable for extended operation. Progress may continue at your discretion." Elias felt a mix of hope and exhaustion. The task ahead was enormous. But for the first time in 15,000 years, humanity had a chance to rise again. A spark had been ignited, and that spark would grow. As he prepared for the next sequence, Elias thought about Earth outside the chamber. The forests, rivers, and mountains waited silently. Life had continued without humans, yet the world had room for them again. He imagined the cities that could be rebuilt, the knowledge that could be shared, and the culture that could flourish once more. He stepped back, allowing the bioluminescent light to wash over him. The chamber hummed softly, a lullaby of life waiting to awaken. He touched one of the pods gently, whispering, "I will protect you. I will help you grow. You will not be alone." Orion's voice, calm and steady, reminded him of the scale of his mission. "Dr. Vorn, humanity's rebirth is in progress. Continued vigilance and intelligence are required. Future challenges may include environmental threats, unknown species, and adaptive security measures. Preparedness is essential," Elias nodded. Challenges would come, but he had faced uncertainty before. Courage, intellect, and determination had defined humanity, and they would guide him now. He activated the next sequence of chambers. One by one, embryos stirred, responding to the carefully controlled environment. Tiny movements, faint pulses, and gentle lights marked their awakening. With each chamber, Elias felt the weight of responsibility, but also a growing sense of pride. Humanity was returning. Slowly, cautiously, but it was returning. Hours passed. By the end of the day, nearly half of the chambers were active. Elias took a moment to rest, leaning against the wall. Outside the biosphere, Earth's forests whispered with the wind, a reminder of life's resilience. Humanity's future, once thought lost, was now being restored under his watchful eyes. As night fell, the chamber glowed softly. Elias looked at the pods, each containing potential, hope, and the essence of a species reborn. He felt a profound connection, not just to the embryos, but to every human who had lived, loved, and dreamed before him. Tomorrow, he would continue. Tomorrow, humanity would take another step toward return, and he, Dr. Elias Vorn, would be there every step of the way, guiding, protecting, and nurturing what remained of a species that had once touched the stars and would touch them again. Dr. Elias Vorn stood in the heart of the biosphere, surrounded by rows of softly glowing chambers. Each one contained a tiny spark of life, human embryos preserved for 15,000 years waiting for a chance to awaken. The hum of machinery and the soft flicker of bioluminescent light filled the chamber, a quiet symphony of hope. "Orion," Elias said, taking a deep breath. "What comes next? The embryos are awake. What is the return protocol?" "Dr. Vorn," Orion replied calmly. "The return protocol is the final step in humanity's restoration. It is a series of procedures to prepare the environment, monitor developmental progress, and ensure the survival of the species once they emerge. Completion of the protocol is essential to guarantee long-term success." Elias nodded. The weight of responsibility pressed upon him. Every action now would affect the future of humanity. One mistake could undo millennia of careful preservation. But hesitation would not serve him. Courage and decisiveness had always defined humans, and it was time to act. He moved to the central console, activating a holographic map of Earth's hidden biospheres. Red and green indicators showed the status of each chamber and facility. Several biospheres had been compromised over time, sealed by natural events or automated systems, but most remained intact, ready to receive the awakening humanity. Orion, which biosphere should we activate next? Elias asked. The nearest stable facility is Biosphere Gamma, located beneath the mountains of the northern continent. Environmental conditions are optimal. Automated systems are active but non-hostile. Travel is recommended, Orion replied. Elias prepared the shuttle, loading supplies, portable tools, and monitoring devices. Each item had been carefully designed for this mission, lightweight, efficient, and reliable. He checked the life support systems, confirming that oxygen, temperature, and energy levels were stable. The embryos would require precise conditions during transit, and there could be no errors. As the shuttle lifted off, Elias glanced back at the glowing biosphere. The first generation of humanity stirred quietly in their chambers, unaware of the world awaiting them. Elias felt a deep connection to them, a sense of guardianship that filled him with both pride and fear. He was their protector, their guide, their bridge between past and future. The journey to Biosphere Gamma was smooth at first, the shuttle cutting through Earth's atmosphere with precision. But the planet had changed. Storms raged in unfamiliar patterns, and strange electromagnetic fluctuations interfered with the shuttle's navigation. Orion's systems compensated, but Elias remained vigilant. One mistake could jeopardize the mission. Hours later, the mountains rose before him, jagged peaks piercing the sky. Elias guided the shuttle carefully toward a hidden entrance, marked by sensors and concealed by natural rock formations. The entrance was small, unassuming, yet it hid the technology that could restore humanity. Elias landed smoothly in a hidden clearing. He stepped out, carrying the portable monitoring units and tools, and began the trek to the underground facility. The forest here was denser, shadows stretching between ancient trees. Strange creatures moved silently among the foliage, watching him with cautious intelligence. Elias remembered Orion's warning. Life had adapted without humans. Curiosity and caution would guide him safely. He reached the entrance, an enormous stone door embedded with glyphs and patterns, similar to those in the first biosphere. He studied the designs, recalling the logic puzzles that had protected the earlier facility. With careful hands, he aligned the symbols, solved the sequence, and pressed the final glyph. The door trembled, then slid open, revealing a spiral descent into the heart of the mountain. Lights illuminated the path, revealing walls covered in symbols, diagrams, and instructions left by long-gone humans. It was both a warning and a guide, a reminder that humanity had always planned for the long future. Elias descended into the chamber below. Rows of chambers stretched before him, each containing embryos preserved in perfect stasis. The facility hummed with energy, its automated systems monitoring environmental conditions, security, and viability. Elias felt a surge of awe. This was humanity's lifeboat, a carefully protected seed ready to grow once again. He activated the return protocol, a sequence designed to prepare the facility for life. Temperature controls adjusted, nutrient systems powered up, and energy fields stabilized the chambers. Elias monitored every reading, adjusting as necessary. The process was delicate, requiring patience, precision, and understanding, the very qualities that defined humans. Minutes passed, then hours. Tiny signs of life appeared within the chambers. Faint movements, subtle pulses, and soft glows indicated the embryos were responding to their environment. Elias felt a mixture of relief and wonder. He had brought them this far. Now the return protocol would ensure their survival. Suddenly, the chamber shuddered. Alarms blared, red lights flashing. Automated guardians, once dormant, had detected movement. Mechanical limbs emerged, scanning and analyzing. Elias froze, realizing that the system had interpreted his presence as a threat. "Orion, how do I stop them?" he asked urgently. "Calm assessment required," Orion advised. "The Guardians respond to logic and intent. Demonstrate purpose to avoid conflict." Elias raised his hand, stepping carefully into the center of the chamber. He accessed the emergency interface, displaying his credentials, mission purpose, and the activation sequence. Slowly, the Guardians recognized his intent. Their movement slowed, then halted. Lights returned to normal. The threat was neutralized. Elias exhaled, sweat forming on his brow. Every facility, every system, every precaution was designed to test human intelligence, morality, and adaptability. Humanity's survival had always depended on more than strength. It required reasoning, empathy, and courage. And humans had never failed to meet the challenge. He returned to the chambers, continuing the activation sequence. Embryos responded, moving gently, breathing softly in the controlled environment. Elias monitored each one, making minor adjustments to ensure stability. Hours passed, yet he felt no fatigue. His focus was absolute, driven by the knowledge that the future depended on every correct choice. By nightfall, half of the chambers were fully operational. Life pulsed softly in every pod. Elias allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. 15,000 years of human ingenuity had preserved this potential, and now one human, him, had awakened it. Outside, the mountains and forests whispered under the moonlight. Elias thought of the world beyond the facility, a planet that had grown without humans yet still had space for them. The return protocol was more than a sequence of steps. It was a bridge between past and future, between loss and hope. He paused by one chamber, watching a tiny movement inside. The embryo curled slightly as if aware of his presence. Elias felt a profound connection. These were not just life forms. They were humanity itself, carrying memory, potential, and resilience. He whispered softly, "I will guide you. I will protect you. You will rise again." Orion's voice, steady and calm, reminded him of the scale of the mission. Dr. Vorn, return protocol is proceeding successfully. Continuous monitoring is advised. Environmental variables, potential threats, and facility integrity require vigilance. Preparedness is essential, Elias nodded. The challenges ahead were immense. He would need to move embryos between facilities, maintain environmental stability, and ensure protection from unknown threats. Yet he felt something else too, a spark of pride, hope, and determination. Humanity had always risen from adversity, and now it would rise again. He prepared the final set of chambers for activation. Lights glowed softly, machines hummed steadily, and life responded. One by one, embryos stirred, tiny pulses of energy marking the revival of a species thought lost. Elias worked tirelessly, guided by Orion, making careful adjustments and monitoring every response. By the time the sun rose above the mountains, the chamber was filled with soft movements, glows, and the gentle hum of awakening life. Elias stepped back, exhausted but exhilarated. Humanity was alive once more, its spark rekindled after 15,000 years of silence. He looked outside the chamber, at the forests and rivers, the mountains and sky. Life had survived without humans, yet humanity's return would bring new potential, new creativity, and new resilience. Elias felt a deep sense of connection, not only to those in the chambers but to every human who had ever lived, dreamed, and hoped. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "we continue. The return protocol is only the beginning. Humanity's journey has just begun." With that, he rested briefly, knowing that the mission required strength, focus, and unwavering determination. Outside, the world waited patiently, ready to embrace the return of a species that had once reached for the stars, and would do so again. Dr. Elias Vorn moved carefully through the dimly lit corridors of Biosphere Gamma. The air hummed with quiet energy, the pulse of life awakening in each chamber. The embryos stirred gently, responding to the controlled environment he had helped create. 15,000 years of silence had ended, and humanity's first new steps were about to begin. "Orion," Elias said, scanning the monitoring console. "All chambers are active, but some embryos show irregular development. What should I do?" "Dr. Vorn, the anomalies are within expected parameters. Minor adjustments to nutrient flow, temperature, and light cycles should stabilize development. You are within normal operational limits," Orion replied. Elias nodded, adjusting the parameters carefully. He had learned that every small change could have a significant effect. Patience and precision were vital. Even the tiniest error could compromise the future of an entire species. As he worked, the chamber walls vibrated faintly. Sensors indicated movement outside the facility. Elias froze. In 15,000 years, Earth had evolved in ways humans could not fully predict. Unknown creatures, environmental shifts, and automated systems could all pose threats. "Orion, what is outside?" he asked, gripping the railing along the corridor. Unknown life forms detected. No aggressive behavior observed. Movement patterns indicate curiosity and caution. Visual identification recommended before action, Orion replied. Elias activated a remote drone. It hovered silently through the main entrance, transmitting images back to the console. Outside, towering creatures with luminescent skin moved through the forest. Their eyes reflected intelligence, their behavior methodical. They did not appear hostile, but their presence was a reminder that Earth had continued evolving without humans. He exhaled slowly. Survival was never guaranteed, even for humans, yet he felt a surge of determination. Humanity had always adapted, learned, and persisted, and now it was his task to guide the species through this next challenge. Hours passed as he monitored both the embryos and the environment outside. Life moved around the facility in strange, unpredictable patterns. Yet inside, the embryos continued to stabilize. Small movements became more coordinated, tiny pulses of energy more rhythmic, as if the species itself recognized that safety and opportunity were returning. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the facility. Red lights flashed. Elias rushed to the central console. "Orion, what now?" he demanded. "Environmental instability detected. A minor seismic shift has activated facility defenses. Structural reinforcement systems are online. Evacuation not required but caution advised," Orion responded. Elias felt the walls of the facility tremble slightly beneath his feet. He moved quickly to the reinforcement controls, ensuring that the chambers remained stable. Each pulse of energy, each vibration could have been catastrophic, but his quick thinking prevented disaster. Humanity's first generation after 15,000 years would survive. Once the tremor subsided, Elias allowed himself a brief moment to breathe. The facility hummed with restored calm. Outside, the forest stretched silently, untouched yet vibrant, waiting for humanity to return. He walked among the chambers, checking each one. Tiny movements, faint glows, and rhythmic pulses indicated success. Each embryo responded to its environment, demonstrating the resilience and adaptability that had always defined humans. Elias's heart swelled with pride. 15,000 years of preparation, caution, and hope had culminated in this moment. But the return protocol was not over. Next came the challenge of interaction, simulating sensory input, teaching basic awareness, and preparing the first humans for eventual emergence. The embryos needed stimuli to develop cognitive and emotional abilities. Elias began with the first chamber. He adjusted light levels, introduced gentle vibrations, and transmitted subtle sounds. The embryo curled, its pulse quickening in response. Elias smiled. Humanity's spark was more than biological. It was perceptive, adaptive, alive in ways that only humans could express. Orion, prepare similar sequences for the remaining chambers. Gradual introduction of stimuli recommended. Monitoring for stress or irregular response is critical, Elias instructed. As the protocol continued, the facility's sensors detected another anomaly. A strange signal approached from the north. Elias checked the drone images. A small fleet of automated devices, remnants of human technology left behind to protect Earth's biospheres, was moving toward the facility. They had not detected him before, but now they were active, analyzing every reading. He cursed softly. These systems were not malicious, they were safeguards, but their approach could jeopardize the delicate awakening process. If they misinterpreted his presence, they might seal the facility or engage defensive measures. "Orion, how do I handle this?" Elias asked. "Use logic and recognition protocols. Demonstrate human intent clearly. Avoid actions that could be misinterpreted as a threat. Engagement should be minimal," Orion advised. Elias moved quickly, using the control console to transmit authentication signals to the incoming devices. Slowly, the fleet recognized his intent. Lights shifted from red to green. Movement patterns relaxed. The automated guardians now understood that a human with purpose had arrived. He exhaled. Each step of this mission tested humanity's intelligence, creativity, and resilience. Every problem required thought, patience, and adaptability, qualities humans had perfected over millennia. Elias realized that these traits were as crucial now as they had ever been. Night fell over the mountains, the forest outside glowing softly under a sky full of stars. Elias took a brief moment to observe the world beyond the facility. It was beautiful, silent, and alive. Earth had endured, evolved, and thrived without humans. But humans had the ability to reason, to dream, and to shape the future. That difference would define the next chapter of life on this planet. Back inside the facility, he continued the return protocol. Tiny pulses of light danced across the chambers as embryos responded to stimuli. Small movements became coordinated gestures, rhythmic and purposeful. Elias watched closely, noting subtle patterns of awareness. The first humans were learning in the most fundamental way. "Orion," he said quietly. "It feels like they understand something. Not just life, but presence, safety, purpose." Observation confirmed. Human development is progressing. Sensory engagement enhances cognitive response. "Continued monitoring essential," Orion replied. Hours became days. Elias hardly slept, consumed by the responsibility of guiding humanity's rebirth. He recorded every observation, adjusted environmental controls, and prepared for eventual emergence. He marveled at the resilience of life, the adaptability of humans, and the vast potential contained within each tiny being. Yet challenges remained. The forest outside continued to evolve. Strange creatures observed the facility, and environmental shifts could affect stability. Elias knew that future missions would require careful navigation, protection of resources, and continued vigilance. But for now, humanity's first step after 15,000 years had been secured. As dawn broke over the mountains, golden light filled the chambers. Elias moved among the pods, smiling at the tiny pulses of life. The return protocol was working. Humanity was awakening. He whispered softly, almost as a vow, "You will rise. You will learn. You will thrive. The world will remember you, and the future will be yours." Outside, the forest swayed in the morning breeze, indifferent yet receptive. Life had survived without humans, but now, a species capable of thought, creativity, and hope had returned. Elias felt a deep sense of purpose, pride, and connection. 15,000 years of waiting were ending, and a new era of humanity was beginning. As he prepared for the next phase of the return protocol, transporting embryos to other facilities, establishing environmental control networks, and monitoring emerging life, Elias knew one thing clearly: the journey ahead would be difficult, unpredictable, and full of surprises. But he also knew that humans had always risen to meet challenges. Intelligence, courage, and hope would guide him, and so, surrounded by the soft glow of awakening life, Dr. Elias Vorn continued his mission. The return protocol was no longer just a sequence of procedures. It was a bridge between past and future, a testament to the resilience of humanity, and the first step toward reclaiming a place among the stars. With resolve, care, and unwavering determination, he moved from chamber to chamber, ensuring that every life he had awakened had the best chance to survive. Humanity had returned, and Dr. Elias Vorn would see to it that the future was bright. Dr. Elias Vorn stood in the heart of Biosphere Gamma, surrounded by the soft hum of machines and the gentle glow of awakened life. Over the past days, he had guided humanity's first new generation through the delicate stages of awakening. Tiny pulses of energy and movement filled the chamber, a quiet celebration of survival and hope. "Orion," Elias said, voice steady. "All systems are stable. What is the next step?" "The next step is integration," Orion replied. "Human embryos have stabilized. Environmental adaptation, cognitive development, and sensory interaction must continue. Preparations for emergence above ground are recommended once readiness thresholds are achieved." Elias took a deep breath. This was the moment he had worked toward for millennia. Humanity's first generation after 15,000 years was ready to take the next step, not merely to survive, but to thrive. Every choice he had made, every adjustment, every precaution had led to this moment. He moved carefully among the chambers, observing subtle signs of life. Tiny movements, slight shifts, and faint pulses indicated that the embryos were responding to sensory input and environmental stimuli. Elias felt a profound connection to each one. They were more than biology. They were humanity itself, carrying the potential of a species that had reached for the stars and would do so again. Outside, the forest whispered with life. Strange creatures watched from a distance, curious but cautious. The world had evolved without humans, yet there was room for them once more. Elias understood that reintroduction would not be simple. Challenges awaited. from environmental adaptation to unexpected interactions with other species. But humans had always risen to meet challenges, and now their first steps were ready. Elias initiated the final stage of the return protocol, the emergence sequence. Slowly, the chambers opened, revealing the small, fragile humans within. Monitors recorded every movement, every pulse, and every response. Elias and Orion observed quietly, ensuring stability and safety. The first humans stirred, blinking, stretching, and responding to the gentle light. Tiny hands reached out instinctively, touching the air, exploring, learning. Elias felt tears prick at his eyes. After 15,000 years, humanity had returned, not merely in memory but in living, breathing form. Orion, Elias whispered. They are beautiful. Yes, Dr. Vorn, Orion replied. Humanity's essence remains intact. Cognitive and sensory development will continue with guidance. Elias carefully guided the young humans, introducing gentle stimuli to encourage awareness. Soft sounds, subtle vibrations, and carefully measured light patterns helped them perceive the world. The process was slow, deliberate, and filled with awe. Each response, each pulse of recognition marked a step toward independence. Hours passed. Elias worked tirelessly, moving between chambers, observing, adjusting, and recording. The young humans were responsive, adaptive, and remarkably resilient. Humanity's potential, preserved for millennia, was now coming to life in ways he had only imagined. Suddenly, the facility trembled. Outside, the forest shifted and sensors detected movement. Elias froze, scanning the readings. Orion, what now? He asked. Environmental disturbance detected. Potential threat to facility integrity. Unknown creatures approaching. Protective measures recommended, Orion replied. Elias's heart raced. The world outside had evolved without humans. Unknown life forms, environmental hazards, and automated systems could all interfere with the delicate emergence process. Yet he had faced challenges before. Logic, careful planning, and courage had guided him through every obstacle. He would not fail now. He activated perimeter shields, subtle energy barriers designed to protect the facility without alarming outside creatures. The approach slowed. The sensors indicated curiosity rather than aggression. Elias exhaled. Humanity's reintroduction could be protected with intelligence and care. Once the immediate threat passed, Elias returned to the chambers. The emergence continued smoothly. Tiny humans began to explore their surroundings within the safety of the facility. Their responses were instinctive yet intelligent, a combination of biology and the subtle guidance he had provided. Each one demonstrated curiosity, adaptability, and a spark of awareness, the very qualities that had always defined humanity. Orion, Elias said, they are ready for the next stage. Transport to surface environments should begin soon. Affirmative. Environmental preparation complete. Surface facilities verified for safety and life support. Transport recommended, Orion replied. Elias prepared the transfer. Each embryo pod was carefully secured, environmental parameters monitored, and transport routes mapped. The surface of Earth, vibrant and alive, awaited the return of a species that had once shaped the planet. He moved slowly, reverently, guiding each pod to the shuttle bay. The outside world gleamed in the morning sun. Rivers sparkled, forests swayed, and mountains rose majestically against the sky. Life had continued without humans, but now a new chapter would begin. The shuttle lifted off, gliding smoothly over forests and rivers, mountains and valleys. Elias monitored every reading, ensuring stability and safety. The first humans would experience a world rich with life, beauty, and challenge. They would learn, explore, and grow, guided by intelligence, courage, and care. Hours later, the shuttle reached a prepared surface facility, a wide, open space surrounded by protective domes and environmental control systems. Elias carefully transferred the pods to the chambers below, initiating life support and sensory adaptation sequences. One by one, the first humans opened their eyes to a world both familiar and alien. Soft light filled the chambers. Sounds of nature reached their ears, and gentle vibrations underfoot helped them perceive their environment. Elias watched quietly, awe and pride swelling within him. Humanity had returned, ready to learn, adapt, and thrive once more. Outside, the forest watched silently. Creatures observed from a distance, curious and cautious. The world had changed, yet it welcomed the return of a species capable of thought, creativity, and hope. Elias felt a deep sense of connection, not only to the humans he had guided but to every life form that shared the planet. "Orion," Elias said softly, "this is the moment we have waited for. Humanity's new dawn has arrived." "Affirmative, Dr. Vorn. The return protocol is complete. Continuous monitoring and guidance recommended. Humanity's future is now in progress," Orion replied. Elias walked among the chambers, observing the young humans exploring their surroundings. Tiny hands touched leaves, small feet pressed against soft soil, and curious eyes took in the sky, the forest, and the mountains. Their responses were instinctive yet intelligent, a testament to the resilience and adaptability of humans. He whispered, almost as a vow, "You are alive. You will grow. You will learn. You will thrive. Humanity has returned, and the future is yours to shape." As the sun rose higher, golden light filled the facility. Birds sang in the forest outside, rivers glimmered, and the mountains stood tall and silent. Life had survived, evolved, and now welcomed the return of a species that had once reached for the stars. Elias knew challenges would come, environmental changes, unexpected threats, and the responsibility of nurturing a new generation. But humans had always faced challenges with courage, intelligence, and hope. The spark that had guided them across centuries and galaxies would guide them again. He stepped outside, breathing deeply, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face. The earth was alive, vibrant, and ready. Humanity's first new generation stirred behind him, exploring, learning, and taking their first steps into a world filled with possibility. Dr. Elias Vorn smiled, knowing that his mission was far from over, but that the most important part had been accomplished. Humanity was alive, aware, and ready to return to its place in the world, and perhaps one day among the stars. The forest whispered around him, rivers flowed, and mountains stood guard. Life had endured, and humanity had returned. A new chapter began today, filled with hope, courage, and endless potential. The return protocol was complete, but the adventure of humanity was just beginning. Elias took one last look at the awakening humans. Tiny pulses of life glowed in the soft light, and he felt an overwhelming sense of pride and connection. 15,000 years had passed, but humanity's spirit remained unbroken. It had waited patiently, guided by foresight, determination, and care. And now it was alive once more. The future was bright. Humanity had returned,